Hey, everybody. Fascinating discussion today as we talk about building smarter agents without handing your code over to the internet. Let's unpack what this means with Iran. Iran, how are you?
Doing well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. Really timely and interesting discussion. Before that, maybe talk about Tab9 and the journey and the mission that you're on.
Yeah, Tabnine is an enterprise first AI assistant. It means that we serve enterprise customers with the latest, greatest AI agents, but agents that are aware of the enterprise context in which they operate. Maybe one of the biggest challenges of agents in the enterprise is situational awareness, kind of like how do you know what you're even working on, right? Typically, it's not like a greenfield situation which you are generating an application from scratch. It is more
Mm,
like, hey, you ask for a feature. I need to read 30,000 lines of code before I can even
mm.
change the one line that it ends up requiring, right? So it's a very kind of different agent situation than the greenfield one.
Fantastic. And what spurred the creation of the company? What were the big challenges that you saw over the past number of years with keeping code private and secure and on point?
Yeah, so Tabnine originated, I think, a couple few years back. Like, actually, we are the OGs of this
Hmm.
area. We predate Copilot. So initially, the
Oh, wow.
technology was not, yeah, technology was not very mature. Then technology was there. Market has matured with us, and I think over time, people have realized the potential. I think this is the fastest growing application of Gen
Mm,
AI. And I think maybe one of the biggest challenges now with agents, or two of the biggest challenges, are one, being aware of the context in which you operate, and the second is like, hey, how can we trust the code that is being generated, right? Like so much code is being generated automatically by AI. We kind of like reached code generation singularity already, but it doesn't mean that we reached software engineering singularity, right? So.
that's fantastic. And how do you keep agents on task and stop them from wandering? I mean, you've got your own tools. You know, uh, can you share exactly the magic that's working sort of in your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So agents really rely on kind of, if you want to think about it abstractly, dimensions.
Hmm.
One is the horsepower of the underlying LLM, and that keeps improving all the time.
Mm,
Just, we're seeing like rapid improvement of models, both API-based models like Claude, but also open weight models. Namely, the Qwen family is doing pretty well these days. GPT OSS is another open weight that is doing relatively well for agents. So one dimension, as I said, is like the just raw horsepower of the underlying LM. But second dimension, which is often overlooked, is the context that is available to the agent, right? Agents need some map of the organization in order to work effectively in non-greenfield, call it brownfield, if you may, situation, and that is what Tabnine is really focusing on, connecting to all sources of information in the enterprise. Think code repositories, documentation repositories, Confluence, Jira, all those things, connect to
mm.
them as first-class citizens, creating some map of the organization that is then used as context to the agents in whatever tasks they're given. Right. So if an agent is not given like the Tabnine context engine, they have to constantly rediscover things about the org, which is hurting them in terms of accuracy and hurting them in terms of token consumption, which translate at the end to much higher costs than what you get when working with Tabnine.
Interesting. And how do you test that the reasoning is genuinely better with your platform?
Oh,
What sort of uplift can
yeah.
you share? How do you measure that?
Yeah, obviously we have our own internal
Mm,
benchmarks for large code bases, and we are working like for several years now with very large enterprises
mm.
spanning tens of millions of lines of code each, which we dive into. Tab9 kind of understands the lay of the land, creates its own maps of the world, and then makes them available to the agents that are operating in that org. Again, a lot of this technology has already been built in earlier generation chat, right? When you kind of get the prior to agents, you just had the functionality of chat with my code base. Let me ask
Mm,
question, how do I implement a Christmas discount? Well,
mm,
implementing a Christmas discount in our code base takes touching, I don't know, 52 files across multiple services, right? So that's the kind of stuff that you'll get from Tabnine. And initially, it was built to help and guide people working on the code base, but this has been evolving very rapidly to serve as foundation for any agent operation in the org. And we're seeing agents being significantly more successful where they're handed this kind of contextual information. Again, the progress is being done on both fronts, like models are improving and context engine is improving. And the compound of that is that the agent ability to operate within an enterprise is improving all the time.
yeah, that's very exciting. And you're integrating with NVIDIA's hardware platforms. Which products in particular, and maybe talk about that integration and how it's going.
Yeah, so we are a very close partner with NVIDIA.
Mm,
We are deploying, Tabnine has full deployment flexibility. So part of the magic of Tabnine is that you can deploy it on SaaS, you can deploy it in your
mm,
VPC, in your virtual private cloud behind your firewall, and you can also deploy it on your own hardware completely air-gapped. So you can run Tabnine on bare metal, in which case we partner with NVIDIA and with others to run effectively on the platform. We constantly um, deploy things using NVIDIA NIMs, which is their um, NVIDIA inference
hmm
kind of platform. We also have partnership with their model team on deploying Nemotron models. Which are increasingly improving all the time. And I think maybe the bottom line is that by partnering with various parts of NVIDIA, we're able to provide very effective agents and very effective AI assistants in general in air gap situation and in situation that run on very wide range of different GPUs, H100s and beyond.
Interesting. So agentic workflows can often sprawl and kind of get out of control, kind of unconstrained. We've seen pretty high failure rates in the early testing and deployment. Any lessons learned from failure models and other things that you could share?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fundamental question of um, partitioning the work between the human and the
Mm,
agent and finding the right granularity of delegation. So a lot of the frustration, I think, comes from over optimistic delegation without understanding what the agent is and is not capable of doing. What we're seeing smart users do is partition the high level tasks to smaller pieces,
mm,
which are importantly easy for the human to understand if the right thing happened or not. So I think people underestimate that problem alone of, say, I delegate something to the agent goes off, comes back with 30,000 lines
mm,
of code, say,
mm,
how do I know that I got what I wanted? Right?
mm,
That's actually a fundamental problem of delegation, regardless if you're delegating to a human agent or to an AI agent, right? You are delegating some task, you're getting back massive amounts of code. How do you know that the code does what you intended? So we're seeing increasingly a move to more rigorous specifications that are given to the agent, and also to more modular partitioning of the work to smaller pieces that are given to the agent,
mm.
such that the task is A, well defined, and B, easy enough to kind of say, okay, I think I got what I wanted. And if not, I can iterate with the agent. So I think that's the art of working with agents, really breaking the task into these manageable pieces. And it's really a problem of delegation. Again, the evolution of that is that specifications are getting more sophisticated and more rigorous to enable this kind of delegation.
Interesting. You mentioned you're working with some very large clients. I know customers are pretty protective of secrets and their names. That can you share any stories or anecdotes about about the customers you're working with and how you're deploying?
Yeah, sure. Again, part of Tabnine Magic is being able to deploy behind the firewall. So
Mm,
we are working with many customers who are in finance, automotive, insurance, defense, etc. And for these customers, it is very valuable to run all these agent workloads without even being connected to the internet, right? So
mm,
this is deployed either in their virtual private cloud or, as I said earlier, completely air gapped.
wow.
I think uh, for those, what we have seen over time is the improvement in models and our ability to deliver the models as they improve, right, very rapidly. We're seeing model evolution, in the span of weeks or months, being able to deliver these models to air-gapped or VPC customers is very influential. And I think one thing that maybe, if you're talking about stories, is the ability of Tabnine Context Engine to help agents, even with relatively weak models, is something that is not maybe not immediately apparent. Maybe I'll try to explain that intuitively.
Mm,
Uh, when the agent uses a model that is not as strong as whatever you have out there, trillion parameter models, 12 billion parameter models,
hmm
um, an effective context engine kind of serves as a shortcut for the agent. Rather than the agent having to go off and discover things about the code base incrementally, kind of like doing massive exploration, the context engine kind of gives you the ready-made context capsule for a particular situation in which the agent is able to process even with a weaker model. Does that make
mm.
sense? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, I think
I
so.
think it's a complete. I think like maybe another way to put it is like the total power of the system is a combination of the LLM power and the context
Mm,
power, right? And so you can compensate for one by over provisioning on the other. So you can compensate for a relatively weak model by over provisioning sophisticated context management. You can maybe over provision, we can compensate maybe for some weak context with an overly strong model.
I
But
see.
again, it's a combination that makes the system successful.
So what happens when intellectual property or safety concerns show up? How do you vet, providence and license risk and align with all the enterprise legal standards and sort of
Yeah,
thing without neutering the model quality that you want?
yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of functionality built into Tabnine exactly on
Mm,
these points. Tabnine, as I said, is an enterprise first product, so it means that we are also able to work with external API based models like Cloud or GB5, right? And in which case Tabnine protects you from non-permissive code that may be generated by this model.
mm,
We have our own kind of attribution, provenance, and censorship module in Tab9 that flags when non-permissive code may have been generated by the model, in which case you can control the behavior, whether you'd like this censored or maybe you'd like to just record it in some log. You can control if this is even presented to the user or hidden from the user. There are other modules of Tab9 that serve an enterprise level audit log for all the code that has been generated by Tab9 and inserted into the code base, either manually or by the agent. And there's basically extensive uh, feature set just for controlling the behavior of the agent and what it is able to do and change inside the organization. Again, we've seen in early days agents changing things that they should not have been changing, agents reading things that they should not have been reading. So you have extensive
mm.
control around that in Tab9. Again, and this is only improving based on our experience with enterprise customers.
Impressive. And what's the shortest path, the time horizon between, a proof of concept kind of agent and a production grade agent? What are the gotchas, and how quickly can you move to production at the moment?
I think again, agents are a reality. Uh, People are using them. I use it every day. Like I don't
Mm,
write code without
mm,
Tabnine agent, right? And I write code every day, so I write it with Tabnine. So in that sense, it is production. I think being successful in enterprise setting is largely a question of, as I said earlier, scoping the kind of the granularity of the task for the agent, and also controlling what gets consumed at the end. Like, how do you know that you got what you wanted? Um, Again, we are also focusing heavily, investing heavily in code review functionality
mm.
that is reviewing the code generated following organizational guidelines, and not just like what the model thinks is good or bad code, right? You want to actually, and the code that is being generated, to respect the guidelines of the organization, not just be good in some platonic notion. And so Tabnine is heavily investing in scaling and automating the code review process following organization guidelines, because we believe that that's the next frontier of being effective with agents, right? Because generating code is easy, but you need to control which code you actually want to put into the code base. At the end, it is still us humans who are responsible for the code base when it breaks, at least for now, right? So, yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
And talk about your roadmap with Nvidia, maybe a little bit, what you can share in terms of what's next, new capabilities. What are you excited about working with them and others?
Yeah, I cannot share specific details. I can say,
I can try.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess at a high level that we're seeing constant improvement from the Nemotron models, and we're excited about working with NVIDIA on that. Other than that, I think we'll have to wait and see what comes out. But I
Yep.
think there are many exciting things coming, and agents will keep improving. We see that all the time. Context engine keeps improving, being able to grok more and more deeper understanding of the enterprise that is cross repo, cross systems, connecting and correlating things like your Confluence pages with your code base, with your Jira tickets, and kind of getting the same situational awareness as your best engineers. I think again, abstractly, we believe that in order to be effective, the AI engineer needs the same observability, same visibility like the human engineer, right? So when
Mm,
you debug, you need to be able to look at the Zendesk ticket and the Jira ticket and the
mm.
conference page of the best practices and the code base and the history and everything together. And that situational awareness is what makes you, together with your memory and your brain, is what makes you a great engineer. And this is what we're building for the AI engineer, the same situational awareness. Again, for the enterprise, this is critical. This is the only way to operate within an enterprise, right? Enterprise without context is meaningless, right?
Yes, not too much vibe coding going on there.
I think vibe
Yeah.
coding again is
Yeah.
valuable. It's valuable even in the enterprise setting for prototyping things. But when you reach like actual production, you need
Mm,
to know kind of like the constraints and the overall code base that you're dealing with. Otherwise, you just like reinvent maybe things that already exist, or do things in a way that are not compatible with the existing code base and the existing org guidelines.
I hear you. So we're sort of back to work now in September. What are you excited about in the run up to the year end? Do you have any travel events or meetups? Lots of customer meetings, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, a lot of customer engagements, meetups, etc. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm really excited about the next generation of agents. I think what we're seeing is abilities that were really science fiction just a couple of years back.
Mm,
And I think really what I said initially is that the code generation singularity is already here. Software engineering singularity is not yet,
hmm.
but we're rapidly approaching, I think, a situation in which every developer is really a team lead of AI engineers. and these engineers are able to accomplish many of the daily tasks. And you just need to kind of break the work for them, plan it a bit, and make sure that what you get is maintainable by humans at the end. Because as for now, humans have to deal with the breakages and the maintenance moving forward again with some AI assistance, but it's still the responsibility of the human. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Well, with ultimate power comes ultimate responsibility. I think that was Spider-Man. So
Yeah, yeah,
that was
absolutely.
that was a mic drop moment. So thanks. We'll end on that very intriguing note. Thanks for joining, Iran.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for listening, watching, sharing, everyone. And be sure to check out the TV show, TechImpact.tv on Bloomberg and Fox Business. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Iran. Take care.